were in MASH, in the TV show MASH.
Yeah. I can see that. Old enough.
So, we now have 100,000 in the interfund transfer and appropriated fund balance as the offset. So, one of the reasons I didn't like to have to do this side of it necessarily, for whatever visibility or transparency issues, is that when you look back a year from now at appropriations in the A fund, they're gonna be overstated by $100,000. So that's, I'll make a note of that and we'll put that in here somewhere so that the next budget officer,
Nope, it ain't happening.
But,
I'm moving to Florida.
but, in my research last night, I discovered that interfund transfers into a fund are not revenue, and interfund transfers out of a fund are not expenditures.
correct, by
So,
definition.
is that not going to show up then in the bottom line for that fund?
Well, it shows up
Both
as a
of the
transfer.
funds? Right, but when we look at the bottom line for that fund,
The whole, correct me if I'm wrong, Nancy, because I would like to be corrected. I think the main reason why audit and control has us go through this way, is if when we file the annual report, that's the only way that their system will handle it.
It goes tilt. If you don't have one side of those, it won't let you file. Literally, it won't let you file it.
no, that's a good point, Bob.
Well, I
I did say
I know that
last
from way back
year,
when
too.
Martha Orr,
Right, and she was doing it on paper.
right, exactly.
You should try doing it with their software.
I don't wanna try doing it with anyone. But anyway, I'm sure that's the crux of the matter. We're reasonably confident.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a really valid
It's
reason.
real
As
sick
long as it agrees with the
municipal.
generally accepted accounting principles and all the, I've lost track of all those terms over the years, but,
You Gatsby's.
which, there you go.
What are we up to, like GASB 85 or something? They keep changing that rule too.
Right.
Mark, if it would have made you happier when I first started here, because we did everything on a cash basis,
There you go.
then we came modified accrual, now we're totally accrual, so and it is cruel to deal with sometimes.
Hey, I think a cigar box in the back room with cash in it.
Just unfortunately doesn't work out
But you
that
gotta
way.
put cigars on top, so it doesn't, yeah.
So that's the offsetting A fund from the DA fund. But like I said, that artificially raises the appropriation number, which I didn't like, but
How did it end up to still be the 1.6, even though you're increasing appropriation and?
well, you have the offset with the revenue, so.
True. Yeah, because.
I was getting, trust me, after 20 minutes, I said, oh my word, this ain't gonna work out. What's going on? Because I'm looking
What,
at this
talk-
number,
You mean talking to Leslie or talking
No,
to?
putting-
Oh, okay.
putting the summary and the,
Yeah.
and the 2019 together.
Yeah, because when I was
This ain't gonna
talking to
work.
Leslie and
But,
I was trying to write notes down and it was like,
Right.
now could you just do that again, tell me, I wanna make sure so I can explain it.
That's why I love email.
Yeah, but they won't.
Leslie, well, she was willing to email me the,
Account numbers?
what's it called, the accounting PDF, the accounting,
Oh, goody, yeah,
the 1,000-page, which I already have.
yeah. And it gives you the codes and all the other nonsense, yeah.
So you read that at night?
If I want to go to sleep fast.
Put it in the bathroom.
I don't know if Kathy has a copy,
There used to be a whole,
but I've
Paper
got
copy.
a copy on the thumb drive. I would just throw it on her system there. She can kick it up in a heartbeat without going to hard copy.
yeah, no, but I mean, there used to be a hard copy in there also, I don't know if there still is, and it's probably outdated
It's
too.
probably outdated, I would guess.
But,
So,
but that's all she was willing to give you. Cause I even went so far as to offer to scan at home all this stuff in and send it to her so she could look at it, and she wouldn't. She just said, no, this is the way you do it, period.
They're not gonna commit, it's a CYA issue.
Exactly.
So, the only thing that's changed is $1,000, which we backed off. And that's virtually, numbers are the same,
Yep.
no change. So we came in at the 1.6. When we get into the DA fund in 2020, when the cash is moved over, they'll be looking a little healthier.
Right.
So the remaining thing needs to be done, obviously a revolution.
No, please.
A resolution to adopt the budget, but a resolution to,
Set it as new funds.
Transfer the
the
We
funds.
have
funds,
to transfer, yeah.
right, that has to be
Now,
done separately.
do we do that prior to adoption, or do we do that when we transfer
The
the
resolution?
fund? Yeah, when we transfer the funds in 2020.
well, I don't know about the legality of that, but
It doesn't matter.
in my
I
opinion,
think
you could do a resolution tonight and
And it be
We
done.
could,
It-
but,
put in the first quarter of 2020 needs to be done.
all interfund transfers, to the extent such transfers are permitted by state law, shall be authorized only by town board resolution.
All right.
Such resolution shall set forth the total amount of monies being transferred and the transferring district/fund and the receiving district/funds. Whenever practicable, the resolution shall specify the timing of the transfer. And in the absence of any specificity in the resolution as to timing, the completion of the transfer shall be within the same calendar year as the authorizing resolution. So, I think
So
we could
did
do the
that-
Probably
resolution.
ought to do it 2020. then.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like, doesn't it?
Yeah, we could
It has
adopt
to
a
be in the-
resolution and say it takes effect January 1st.
January 1st. Then within the resolution, put a 60-day window to move the cash.
Well,
Or
you
what?
gotta get the cash.
Well, there's enough in there to make the move for that early in the year.
Yeah.
Within the first 10 days,
There are,
probably.
yeah, there are bills at the beginning of the year. I always try to put people off, like the big ones.
Oh, by the way, 2015, A.9901.900, transfer to other funds, was an entry of $20,000.
That was to set up a capital reserve, I'll bet.
Is that what it was? You said you hadn't remembered transfer to other
This
funds.
is in 20 when?
2015, not that long ago,
It was probably, how much was it for?
20,000.
20,000.
I'm wondering, in L fund?
No, A fund.
A fund?
Yeah.
It was probably for, like you said, probably for a capital project.
Just guessing.
Yeah,
What
that's the
year-
only thing,
What year did we do the lighting and all that?
That sounds right.
the roof,
And all
Or-
that? Oh, yeah.
All of here,
Yeah.
that sounds
So that was
right.
when Neil was here, so that was probably 5, 6 years ago.
Oh,
So
that
that would
was
be about
20,
right.
24 years ago.
that's
Yeah.
all 4 years ago.
I don't know.
It had to be to a capital project fund,
Well,
no?
that-
Usually it would say transfer
Well,
to
we had,
capital
we had,
project.
we had the band for that,
Uh-huh,
so.
I don't know.
yeah.
Well, I couldn't
I mean-
find I couldn't find the other half of it. I
That's-
didn't have time to go looking for
Well,
it.
yeah, and I mean, it's a moot point anyway.
Yeah.
Well, no, but what you guys had said you'd never seen one before, but
The only thing that I had ever seen in my recollection was way back when, right after adoption of the budget, the fire department used up all their foam on a fire. And they didn't have a fund balance back then at all. So the general fund had to do a loan to the fire department, and it took 2 years to get it back because the budget had just been adopted and they still had no wiggle room in their budget at all. After that, I made sure don't forget, leave them like $1,000 or something once they pay it back. I think it was like 400 something dollars that we had to, and it sat out there for a while, cause it had to wait until they could raise the money in order to pay
Right.
A back. That's why I thought perhaps it would have to be paid with interest. That was
Only when it's not
Right.
within the same,
exactly.
Tax
yeah.
levying
Well,
district.
after, I did look into that after I opened my mouth about that.
So are we content to adopt the 2020 budget at this point in time? And if so, be a resolution.
Are you doing a resolution to transfer funds first? Or
I think that's the next decision we have to make.
Okay, so
If
you're
we
gonna do
wanna do
budget
that
first.
tonight
Okay,
or do it
okay, fine.
later
Okay.
after the new year.
Good. Fine with me.
I don't know, when you read that, it said to be for the year that it's gonna,
No,
you don't have to go through that whole thing again, I think it was one of the last sentences.
should specify the timing of the transfer and the completion of the accounting transaction shall be within the same calendar year as the authorizing resolution. So that does sound like we have to do it
Sounds
after the
like
first
do
of the
it
year,
2020.
That sounds like me.
Yeah,
after the first,
That's
okay.
what I thought I picked up the first time, but I wasn't sure.
Okay.
So that will have to be done.
So
January.
can we enter that into the minutes, just enough to know that we have to do that?
Resolution to transfer funds after the first of the year.
Yeah.
Yep. Moved by? Do you wanna move this, that this should go into the minutes or just?
No, I just think, just make a note, just so
Okay, okay.
they don't lose sight of it in
Sure,
January.
not a problem.
Yeah, yeah. And, I still like the transparency of actually showing how bad the fund balance is in DA, but
Well, and you know, that brings us to another question, why is it that bad?
cause he spends a lot. Well, this budget made it worse, didn't it? With all his employee costs were high for this budget. And it's not being reflected by these percent totals, you know what I mean? It's,
No, I don't know what you mean.
he had, how many, 5, 6 guys with step increase?
5.
Yeah, so, that knocked things, I mean, out of kilter for this budget year. Past budget years, he was very generous in saying, oh, I can give 50,000
Yeah,
to fund balance, or I could do this or that.
Last year he did.
Perhaps then with the purchasing of new trucks or, you know, the other
There's
items.
a lot of moving pieces on it this year.
And, not for nothing, but we try to keep this budget down to bare bones, and eventually it is gonna catch up big time, and that worries me.
I know, we got a projected fund balance of 836,000, so I don't think we're in bad shape.
No, but eventually, when, if you use it,
Well,
you know,
I think that during the course of the year, you in particular, because you know more about this than I do for sure, and Bob, might wanna give just a little thought to, you know, how that happened and what we might do to, make it different in the future budgets. Of course, this kind of falls into Mark's suggestion that we do a 3 and 5 year plan, you know, and I don't know.
it's hard to plan. I mean, look at what happened
is.
with the storm.
Yeah.
You know, you just never know what
Yeah.
is gonna kill it, but
It is hard to plan and it would take a lot of work and
I don't know, it just feels like. bought a lot
And you
of
can
new
never
trucks
anticipate
and
everything.
Things back there, the past couple of years.
Well,
Well,
the grader was a big item.
Yep,
And if you remember, second to last meeting last year, that we agreed to a $150,000 appropriated fund balance.
There you
Out of
go.
DA.
But part of that was for he's putting it all in reserves. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Which is-
So you're not
Which is
seeing,
great, not all of it, but.
right, but you know what I mean? If you're putting that in the budget and then you can't touch it,
The point of a reserve.
Yeah, it is the point of the reserve, but you're saying, why is his fund balance low? Well, we might be keeping his budget on track, but we're putting money away that we can't touch, so eventually.
That's the advantage of, as hard as it is to assimilate some sort of plan, and then revisit that plan quarterly.
I think Randy has a reasonably,
Yeah,
So
he
do I.
does.
So do
Yeah.
I.
and I think we would be more in line with it had we been able to buy the parts right away.
Yeah.
He would have moved that to the next year.
But I think it also helps
Oh, yeah, people coming in.
new incomers,
Yep.
elected officials.
Yeah,
Is that-
absolutely.
It's a big help.
That
It's gotta
truck,
be a big help.
that truck purchase, I know we're getting 35,000 for the sale of the others,
Yeah.
but is that built into this year or into next year? Because that'll take
Randy
a
says-
chunk of monka out of DA too.
The only thing I can say about that is, we talked briefly last night, and he was just wondering what Dan's idea was. I said,
Dan's
I don't
idea.
talk to Dan about that kind of stuff. That's between you and him. But Randy's indicating the truck is gonna be here by Christmas.
Yeah.
The money will be here from the auction shortly. So we're gonna have to come up with another 30 grand to cover the purchase of this truck. Now, he's not here to defend himself, but I've noticed the pattern that we're sneaking, it's a bad word, sneaking stuff in near the end of the budget process, seems to me. I'm getting the sense of.
And even if he snuck it in January, and it would still have to be accrued back to this year if they want a payment.
Yeah, so he's gonna be looking for money to pay for his truck before the end of the year.
So, there you have it, why, perhaps in a nutshell, why the budget gets kinda
Tight.
tight.
That's why if you have at least a sense of the fund balance, have an objective for it. We want the DA fund balance to be, you could call it a percentage, but maybe a dollar amount as it relates to appropriations.
Well, I like a dollar amount, and the main reason is
It's
that the state uses percentages. Well, if you are taking what percentage of the Albany budget versus what percentage of the Lake Pleasant budget, yeah,
Just like that.
you don't have much.
And
And if you have a problem, you just don't have the funds for it.
right,
Oops, I'm sorry.
and they really, that, what's his name, Curry, he wouldn't give me a straight answer on that when he was doing the audit here about.
Well, they
what
won't tell you. It's strictly up to each local government, depending on your own circumstance, own situation,
Yeah.
whatever's happening in
And they
your
read
town
you
or
up, but that
village.
doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, if it doesn't meet their weird whatever,
Whatever,
Yeah.
let them write you. let 'em
Yeah,
write you.
I'm with you, let them write you out.
but we never well, we haven't.
But what I'm trying to
Long,
say
long,
is,
long
Yeah.
time, yeah.
once, if you can go through the exercise and
Mm-hmm.
kind of get that established, no matter how rough it is, then at least, like I said, once a quarter or something, take a look at it at a board meeting and discuss it a little bit, and where are we in,
Mm-hmm.
you know, maybe,
A lot of what I used to do this time of year was really sit down with all the department heads and say, what are your purchases looking like for the rest of the year? Because the budget is set, so what you see as far as expenses that haven't been used yet, it can go way over that in the case of the truck now. If we have to come up with 30 or 35,000 for the truck, then that isn't in there to get it closer. I used to sit with Randy, how many of those big gigantic tires do you need to buy? You know, at the end of the year, and how much, like individual budget lines, that was literally what I would do with him. and, you know, with Deb and what we needed as far as supplies for in here. And it was a time consuming thing, and I would do it in September and October every year to give a projected fund balance.
Sure, makes sense.
You remember when I used to do that? Oh my God.
I was just a young man then.
But it's like anything else, even in my personal life, it's when push comes to shove. Right, when it's crunch time.
Yeah.
So,
And it gives you a more, I don't wanna say complete idea of what is coming up than just looking at the budget.
Well, more complete, I think, is
Yeah,
accurate.
yeah.
You know, judging by the fund balance projection we were just provided with, DA hopefully will have 167,000 remaining at the end of the year. So that'll easily
You know,
cover the
the 100 is
34,000.
from the 100 we're gonna transfer?
Right,
well, the DA, it won't, well, it'll be 167, but
Right.
110 of that's tied up in special reserve.
oh,
Okay.
that's right,
Yeah,
this is why I'm not an accountant.
So we're really down to less than, well,
57,199.
it'll be less than 60,000 at the end of December,
oh, yeah, definitely.
And then
status
the
quo.
truck still has to.
Or depending on how good the dartboard was, that's all.
Yeah.
And we owe 34 on the truck, so that's gonna leave 23,199.
Well, he's thinking he wants to do the truck out of the A fund.
What?
That's what I'm looking at, oh, the A fund?
No, no.
But you can talk to him about that.
Well, I was gonna say is maybe we should transfer more than 100,000, cause the A fund,
You can-
fund balance is 28%.
You can transfer anytime you want.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll worry about that if we need it next
The
year.
reason for the push was this, to keep us under the cap at this time of year.
Yeah.
I guess looking back, maybe we should have transferred some earlier in the year, but
Yeah, well, hindsight's always good,
yeah.
generally.
It isn't, yeah, and it, most of the time it wouldn't be budgetary, but if he's gonna, is he figuring that because he's doing parking lots with it?
You'll have to talk to him.
Well,
I'm only the budget man.
now
Something to that effect.
yeah.
The way he's utilizing utilizing the truck.
Well, it would be
I think you
a
were saying using for cemeteries and stuff like that.
town as a whole,
Yeah.
right?
Right,
It
but
would.
if he's using it for highway projects too, maybe part of that should come out of highway and part of it should come out of general, cause it isn't budgeted in general either. For this year, you know, a big chunk like that, unless he's figuring, I don't know if he has money
He's
left.
looking at the money.
And
He looks at the money.
cemeteries, I know he does, and he tries to sneak things in places where he shouldn't. See, that's what I used to catch all the time when I was in here.
He's good at what he does.
Like a dog that's too smart.
I used to say, go back out there and say, no way, no way, no way, no way.
So are we ready to
Adopt.
move forward on adoption?
I am.
Is this meeting open for public comment?
The sole purpose of this meeting is just to adopt the budget.
I just asked a question, so the
Yeah.
answer would be no.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And the reason why, let me explain why. Because we had to make a special meeting because we weren't able to do it last night. And we can't advertise for this other than through the shadow box. So we had to be very specific of what we were planning to do at this meeting. So that was the only thing we were planning to do.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Well, I move that we adopt the budget as presented by the budget officer today, November 19th, 2019, for the Town of Lake Pleasant budget for 2020.
Wow, that's pretty wordy.
Yeah, I know.
But it's accurate.
OCD, haven't you figured that out yet?
Well, that explains it.
Explains a lot, I'm sure.
Uh-oh.
Who's seconding it?
I'll second if nobody else will. Any further questions or comments? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Gigi, what do you think? Okay, so I'll get those copies made for Mr. Wilk to present to the board next week. And we're done.
Oh, we have, well, there's 2 copies there. I have 30.
I have to have certified copies of the budget for Mr. Wilk.